I've read about fasting that talks about colon cleansing and gallbladder flushing during the fast. Do you do that or recommend, or can you comment?
We absolutely do not recommend gallbladder flushing. People will give people olive oil and lemon juice, and then their gallbladder throws up soap balls or olive oil balls, and they tell them it's gallstones, which is usually nonsense. But you don't need to make your gallbladder vomit bile, because the body will flush itself naturally during fasting, and you will see yellow and green bile showing up. It can be very unpleasant. If you have existing stones, you may pass those stones. That can be rather entertaining as well. But you don't need to go in there and irritate and stimulate the system. That's one of the things that people don't get, is that anytime you stimulate the system, there's going to be some compensatory depression. That's also why we try to avoid colonics and other bowel stimulants during fasting, because we don't want to overstimulate the system. The system will take care of itself if you get out of the way. So it's very rare that we have to resort to any of these types of therapeutic interventions.
Thanks very much, Doctor. And let's go now to Lorraine. Hi, Lorraine.
Hello, good afternoon. I have a ongoing problem of sleep problems. I've been taking supplements for 30 years. I do not have sleep apnea. I do everything you tell me to do. I walk a mile a day. And I'm trying my best to get off these medications. So I don't take them for about 4 days. I sleep maybe 4 hours, maybe 6, but not good sleep. And then on the 5th day, I take a sleeping pill, sleep great all night long. I'm sure that must be one of the reasons I'm losing weight so slowly. And I do practice intermittent fasting.
Yeah, you covered a lot of things in this question. In order for people to sleep well, they should have good sleep hygiene. And there's a number of books that talk about this in detail, Power Sleep and others. And the idea is you sleep in a cool, dark, and quiet place. You don't let things disturb you. You turn off the phones. You don't have the pets in the rooms. You make sure, like you did mention, that you don't have sleep apnea, or if you do, you correct it with CPAP or whatever you need to do. That you have, you deal with appropriate mattress and support. Sometimes, people have back pain. They want to sleep with a cushion underneath their legs or between their legs. There's issues you can do to improve your sleep hygiene. Some people have trouble getting to sleep. Some people have trouble staying asleep. Those can be different causes. Some people having trouble falling asleep can even relate to stress-related issues. And there's all kinds of techniques you can use to get the stress out of your head and make it more possible to initiate sleep. Some people have trouble staying asleep because they wake to pee, or they have prostate problems, or they have other issues that are disrupting their sleep cycle, and improving those other things can be tremendously helpful. That's one of the reasons why with fasting, you see a lot of people that have chronic sleep problems corrected, not just because of the effect of fasting on the neurochemistry in the brain, but because now they're not waking up 5 times a night to pee because their benign prostatic hypertrophy reduced, or they're not waking up with pain because their chronic inflammation is resolved, or their headaches are resolved, or their other issues. So it does have to be approached comprehensively. You look at both the physical as well as the psychological variables and try to address all of them. And then, if necessary, reboot the whole system with fasting. And in most cases, we're able to get improvements. Now, the problem is, there's an interesting book out there that's called Anatomy of an Epidemic. And Anatomy of an Epidemic talks specifically about serotonin uptake inhibitor medication. But the principles that are outlined in that are going to be very much the same with the medications that are used, some of which are quite dangerous. Ambien and others can be quite problematic. And the withdrawal of those drugs is difficult because when you've deactivated the D2 receptors in the brain, for example, with serotonin uptake inhibitors, you get anxiety and depression when you withdraw from those drugs. And that leads people into thinking that they have a brain deficiency and they need those drugs in order to function. But if you can just get far enough away from the addiction or the dependence on these medications, eventually the brain may be able to reestablish a more normal cycle, particularly with good hygiene and the rest of it. And that's why if you're having trouble doing it on your own, come to the TrueNorth Health Center, undergo a reboot, work with a doctor that's experienced in people getting well, and spend enough time to actually get the system working right. Because the long-term use of these sleep medications is going to make the problem probably worse, not better. They become part of the problem. And I know it can be really difficult to solve these problems, but once you do, you won't mind all the effort you had to put into making it happen, because it not just solves your sleep cycle, but it improves your overall health and reduces your likelihood of debility.
Thanks, Dr. Goldhamer. Up next, we're going to bring in Sylvia, and welcome, Sylvia.
Yes, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I was wondering, would I qualify to go to TrueNorth? I have rheumatoid arthritis. I weigh about 103 pounds. I am whole food, plant-based, oil-free. I try to be salt-free. I use a little bit of salt, but
how tall are you?
I'm 5'1", and I've been dealing with rheumatoid arthritis for 11 years. I went plant-based, vegan about 3 years ago. And lately, since June, I've had such a flare up, so much so that my fingers are starting to get deformed. And I feel like I've become sensitive to so many foods, and I'm not sure what to do.
Are you medicated right now?
I am. I'm taking 5 milligrams of prednisone, sulfasalazine, hydrochloroquine. And recently I started taking Areva because I just can't seem to control the inflammation.
Okay. So, obviously it would be better if you smoked and drank and were 50 pounds overweight and had 50 things that we could tell you to easily change. You're in a situation where it gets much more difficult because the fine tuning is much more precise. There may need to be more of a nutritional medicine approach taken initially to get you stabilized. You're going to have to wean off medication, which can be very difficult with steroid drugs, in order to be able to fast. At some point, even though you're thin, a short fast may be really helpful in terms of dealing with the consequences of your current treatment model. So what I would suggest you do is go to TrueNorthHealth.com, complete the registration forms. We'll talk. There's no cost to talk to me. We'll talk about matching you with a doctor. We'll get you to do a Zoom consultation with one of our doctors who will work with you and your local doctor to figure out a strategy to wean off the meds and stabilize you enough that we can try to do some fasting. And then after fasting, hopefully you'll get enough improvement that the need for medication can be eliminated, because the meds themselves can be a challenge, as you well know, over the long run. The fact you're already doing a plant-based diet, that would be the first step. The fact that that's not enough means we need to tighten up the screws there even further, and then probably look at some type of fasting regime to try to bring your inflammatory processes under better control.